Okay, so I'll call the meeting to order at 7:04 here. Laura, I know there was no public comment or any material sent to me this month, nothing for you?
No, I got no correspondence.
Okay, Bill, is there anybody waiting to get in to speak or?
Looks like there's somebody out there. If members of the public would like to speak, you can press the raise hand button at the bottom of your screen or press *9 on the phone. And it doesn't look like anybody.
Okay, so if there's no one out there that wants to make public comment, we don't have any correspondence, we'll move on to the acceptance of minutes. Do we have any additions or deletions to the monthly minutes for December? Do we have someone that would like to make a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll move.
Nancy, second, Bill?
Second. Yep.
Okay,
Second.
all in favor, just give a hand. And, okay, so moved, unanimous.
Sorry, Kevin, I'll abstain because I wasn't at the meeting.
Okay, so Laura, that's one extension, okay. Ken. Okay, correspondence, there wasn't any old business? Does anybody want to bring anything up under old business? My cat, sorry. Anything old business, would the public assembly fall under old business?
I would think so.
I would think so. Yeah, so what Dimitri did was he came up with a rough draft of a policy for public assembly. Let me see if I can share this with you. Can you guys see that?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yep.
So this is what he came up with. Groups or persons wishing to schedule a public assembly in any of Trumbull's parks, including but not limited to a rally, demonstration, visual, speech, march, parade, religious service, or other congregation of persons for the purpose of public expression of a political, social, or religious view must adhere to all the regulations within the Trumbull Municipal Code, including but not limited to Chapter 15, Parks and Recreation. Approval from the Parks and Recreation Commission may be required. Okay, so that's a rough draft. Any comments on that?
Kevin, would there be a situation where the commission would not be required to approve such a gathering? Like an impromptu gathering of some kind or something like that, or I'm just not sure what we're getting at.
What you mean with the last word where Recreation Commission may be required?
Correct.
Permission or, gee, wouldn't it be if it's under 200, theoretically, it doesn't need approval, correct? If they're taking out a permit for one of the parks?
So here's where I got myself in the the mental puzzle of what I was writing. Because a public gathering of any sort really is inviting anybody and anyone who could attend. So there's ultimately no top end to any event. So that doesn't mean, like, we've had a couple of them this year where you didn't get anywhere near the threshold that would be a traditional Parks Commission approval. But the very concept of what a mass gathering could be could absolutely exceed that. So do you or do you not assume that it could be that. And then, and you're correct. How would you ultimately say yes or no to it if we're essentially saying we are allowing for such a thing? The way that it would end up having to be is we'd shut the facility down when anybody made a request of this nature based on the unknowns that would become associated with a mass gathering. It would just become a priority event, or it's a first come first serve thing. If we had something else scheduled there like we had before, we would tell them that that particular location was not available, and that would be consistent with our parks policies. I just don't know how much information we really wanted to put into it. So I that last line was like an 11th hour addition about whether or not we even wanted to say that it had to come before the commission. But certainly the circumstances could easily be within the traditional purview of park commission approval.
Hey, Dimitri, does there need to be a permit from the town first to have public assembly?
Well, that's what we're essentially saying here, and yes, depending on where it is. So if it's an impromptu, whatever, there are a number of different rules that would govern how you would do it. But we've never outlined how it would be or how it should be handled on parks, open space, or any other traditionally permitted areas through Parks and Rec. So that's the reason for this language. Technically, they should always have to ask if it's, a sudden community uprising, that, all bets are off, okay, where it's literally unscripted, unplanned. But that's not the majority of the events that take place. Great many of the things you're seeing, even in Washington right now, somebody's actually taking out a permit for the mall. It's the way that it's managed, because you could have conflict or too many people in the same space, or anyway, you understand it. I'm not sure whether or not the language around Parks and Rec needs to be there for approvals, but really that was the point of this being a draft, is for all of you to start mulling over some of the thoughts. I think I have the most relevant points indicating the type of events we're speaking of, and it's language that we've never had before memorialized.
Can I say that I think that the language here is good. With regard to the last sentence, I do feel as though Park and Recreation should be addressed within this text. And perhaps it's just a tweaking of the language, whereby if you read chapter 15, Parks and Recreation, so all the regulations within the Trumbull Municipal Code, including but not limited to chapter 15, Parks and Recreation, for review where approval may be required. So I guess what I'm getting back to is there have been several incidents where assemblies or events have happened without the Parks Department, or excuse me, the Park and Recreation Commission not knowing about it, or knowing about it after the fact.
Mm-hmm.
So I would just caution all of us to include something in here with regard to our management of the park, that we know what's going on before a decision is made by some other, let's say, municipal or commission or department within the town. So I think Park and Recreation needs to be in here for review and approval at some within some text or some context. So
Mhm.
finishing that, I think you're right. And I wouldn't take that out. I guess that's what I'm saying. But maybe it needs to be a little bit more substantial. I think we need to know, or the other commissions within the town or departments in the town need to know if someone approaches them, that they need to come to us first if they want to have this type of assembly.
What if we put the word notification in there, like park and recreation notification and at least make sure we're notified?
Yes,
Hmm.
exactly. In advance of a
Mhm.
decision.
What about adding something about consequences? Meaning like, like, for example, when that riot or protest thing took place, when there was soccer games going on, the soccer games got canceled. So, there should be some sort of consequence, loss of expense to those demonstrating or something to that effect that organization lost out on.
Well, there again, I think, Mike, if we knew about that and we knew that there was a soccer game scheduled at the same time that this rally was going to commence, we would have just told them that they couldn't have that facility because it has already been reserved.
But I
So
think
then
the
there wouldn't be
problem
a
with,
consequence, there wouldn't be a consequence to them to being there, because then we would have made the decision that they
Sure.
couldn't go there in the first place.
but D, wasn't the overall problem was they knew there was stuff up there and they said, it doesn't matter, it's a peaceful protest, we're gonna have it anyway and you can't stop us.
Well, there is a lot of truth to that statement. What I think, though, the missing piece is that they and a lot of other people didn't know that there was a proper way to go about these things, and then they stood their ground. I'm not giving them a pass for taking that position, but I believe that's actually what took place. So this type of language and really getting out ahead of it and promulgating it, through our website, our policy page, and whatever other mechanisms throughout the other departments throughout the town that might be receiving these types of requests. Well, now everybody is aware or will be aware of what is required, and then there is absolutely no excuse. They didn't have the planning side of it all in there, and then having to theoretically reverse it. I'm not saying they shouldn't have, but there would be no excuse for it. Every member, every department would be aware of what needs to be done, and I actually think that moving forward, you would have a much easier time managing it. I like what you said about notifications as well. I mean, these types of events might not follow the traditional. Well, in very many cases, 1 or a month or 6 weeks of lead time to get before the commission for approval or denial. There's a sense that there is no denial, but there is absolutely a necessity for notification and acknowledgement and compliance with Parks and Recreation rules. At least from where I stand. I don't know how you feel about that, Ken.
Well, I like the term notification. I think notification to me is important. I think that we need to be aware
Yes.
of what's happening within our park. So I'll just leave the last sentence to some tweaking and additional language whereby notification should be included, approval should be included, or review should be included, so that we know what's happening within the system.
Or maybe something along the lines of up to and including Parks Commission notification and review.
Notification and review. And I don't think we need to include anything about approval. We just need to indicate notification and review.
Right.
I like that.
Mm-hmm.
And we could decide whether or not we want to allow it or not at that time, as long as we're notified.
Got it.
Anyone else want to opine on this? Bill, how does it look to you?
With that change that Ken mentioned, I like it. Language looks really good. It's clear, it's succinct. And I think review and notification and review is a good addition to this, but it's really good.
Okay. Dee, where would this fit? Would this be added to the municipal code, or where would we put this language?
We'll put it into Parks and Rec policies, because there's many Parks and Rec policies that don't live within municipal code. It's a much more complicated process to go there. Not saying it can't go there, but we can get it inserted instantly, and it's legal and binding within our own policies. Once it's an approved policy, the commission can approve it. The department could actually approve it. This is how we are going to manage the system. It's written and it's available for the general public to read and understand in whatever mechanisms we have to promote information.
Mm-hmm.
And an example of that too, to Dee's point, we've made changes to the regs in the past without going to council or any other body. An example of that would be, let's say, motorized vehicles within Twin Brooks Park, where we were having a problem with that years ago. And as a commission, we voted to change that, where that would not happen. And now, with that change, the rangers can enforce that.
Yes.
So that would just be an example of how we could change the reg, or the regulations within the park.
I mean, if you'd like, I mean, I think I know where you want to be. I mean, it's just really just changing off a couple of little words. I don't know if tonight is the place to do it, or maybe it is. I can officially make the corrections to it, and we could vote on it at not we, you could vote on it at next month's meeting, and we're good to go.
Sounds good to me.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
Okay. All right, I'm going to unshare this. Okay. All right, we're still under old business. Is there anything else under old business?
Well, I don't know if this is old business or new business, so I'm just gonna, I guess, start the conversation. And it's with regard to the parks and also the snow removal within the park system. Now, you know, I use the trails a lot. People do, a lot of people do. I know you do, Kevin. A lot of people walk the trails. And I'm not requesting that the Pequannock Valley Trail be snow cleared, even though they do that in other areas. They do it in Monroe, they do it in Bridgeport. But there are parks within the town where I do feel as though we need to talk about the snow removal within, let's say, Twin Brooks Park, where people tend to go when there is, let's say, a storm. They like to walk their dog. They're just used to going there. That's a habit. But the walkways aren't plowed in there or shoveled. And I don't really understand that, because, you know, in many cases, people go to the park because they don't have a sidewalk where they live, and there are sidewalks that are cleared within the town. So they go to the park because that's a safe place to recreate or walk the dog or whatever the case may be. So I would ask that these areas within Twin Brooks Park, the walkways that lead around the lake, that lead up to, let's say, the bridge over the Vietnam Memorial, and I know that's under construction right now, so when that's safe and ready to be used, that should be included. And then, of course, the walkway that leads from Twin Brooks up to Old Dyke Road, and there's a very nice walkway there, keeps people off the road. It's a very pleasant place to spend time. In addition to that, the Rocky Hill sidewalk, which is across from the gas station on White Plains Road, that's the lead-in into the cul-de-sac that brings us down the Pequannock Trail onto Quarry Road and then out to the end where the WPCA pump station is. Now, I really feel as though there could be better maintenance and snow removal on that walkway. I've noticed that in Bridgeport, the city there has actually cleared that path, the walkway, all the way up to the Trumbull line, and then it stops in Trumbull. And that to me, I think is something we need to talk about. That's a great place for people to park at the end of Quarry Road. They use it all the time now. Of course, the weather's dry, it's clear, but it's also a very pleasant spot, and it should be maintained for that use. And I don't think it's would be a huge inconvenience for, let's say, staff. I know that you've got some limitations now because you've got, I'm talking to Dee actually, with staff moving over to Public Works, but you know, I look at a lot of the walkways that are cleared within the town itself along White Plains Road, along Churchill Road, along Main Street, along Daniels Farm Road, and you know, and I know that those are secondary to all the road work that needs to be done. The town does a great job with plowing the roads, and then the sidewalk comes next, schools, etc. But I would really invoke the parks department, or I should say the superintendent, his staff, and the Public Works department to include these areas as well. There are a lot of people that don't live in neighborhoods that have sidewalks where they can walk and they can enjoy the outside. And this is a place where they can go and feel safe and be able to enjoy our system. So I don't want to make a motion with regard to this because I think that's a little harsh, but I do feel as though we need to have a good conversation about it and where we go from here with regard to, let's say, the next storm. It's only a couple more months, but if people can't use the Valley Trail after a snowstorm, which they really can't. I mean, if it's first snow and you can walk through and you can snow ski or whatever, once it hardens up there and it freezes over, it's treacherous. So we need another aspect of recreation within the system, and I think Twin Brooks is a great place to as an option.
Do you want to address that already? Are any of those walkways wide enough for a truck?
No. So let me just throw a few things on the table for discussion. So I agree with you, Ken. I am really the proponent of passive recreation over organized recreation philosophically. I think it's always been disproportionate, and I believe that there is a great desire for it, and there's endless health benefits for it for our community, and I don't have to outline any of those things. The issues are that we have been tasked with, quite frankly, a very difficult challenge with our sidewalks in town in general. They have become requirements because the town does not pass the care and responsibility to the adjacent property owners, and essentially all of these sidewalks in town, whether they be around a school or wherever they are, ultimately fall as to liability on the town itself. And as an assignment, it's been given to the Parks and Rec Department. On average, the town, if any of the commissioners aren't aware of it, our department goes into dealing with all the municipal buildings, the parking lots, and then it just keeps broadening out from there. Probably one of the very last things that Parks and Rec does is open up parks. Quite frankly, because there's only so many people to go around, and the magnitude of what it takes to actually do. If you think about it, a sidewalk that goes down Main Street is about 1.5 feet. It's about 1.5 feet off of Main Street, and if you got a foot of snow, Well, in reality, that sidewalk will probably have 3 feet of snow of pushed over material that the snow plows have actually deposited there. And we can't even clear those areas until that's actually taken place. So if any of you have ever had to clear the edge of your driveway after a snowplow goes off, then you know the challenge of doing literal miles of that. And there are no really industrial level equipment that's capable of going on such narrow roads. We built our sidewalks on the kind of on the narrow side, and the generalized snow blowers and equipment explode. I mean, I'm not exaggerating. You can get anything from curbing to you know what and more, just deposited in that frozen, ice pack that's along every one of these sidewalks. So crying's over, but it does take us days upon days just to get through that. And every day that goes by, as you said, the longer that material sits there, the harder and more solid it becomes to the point where nothing's going to go through it. I
won't
don't
be able to talk.
Hello? Oh, so it's just a matter of timing and the ability to actually get through it. I just don't know how we would ever physically get in there. Now, Twin Brooks generally gets plowed, but that doesn't address your sidewalks. Now, Twin Brooks, on the other hand, within the next, who knows when, hopefully this year, we will actually begin the reconfiguration of the road, drainage, and some of the sidewalks that will be going back in there. At that time, there has always been intent to make those wide enough to be able to plow them off and make it a little bit easier. But not all of those areas will ever be able to easily be plowed. One last consideration, and this goes back to when the first sidewalks went into Twin Brooks, as a matter of fact. There becomes an expectation that those sidewalks are always safe and passable in a storm event. So in various instances, they'll ice over, even if they're plowed, and they can become treacherous in a matter of hours. We've had liability issues within Twin Brooks. We've been sued years ago for people slipping on areas of glazed over pavement. And once again, it's how practical an endeavor would it be to do that walkway. We've never been able to get to the point municipally where we can shed the liability and responsibility for the maintenance of an area if we say it's okay for a certain kind of activity. So, those are some of the challenges I see looking at that and how we would manage it differently. I don't have a simple answer. I don't agree with what you're trying to do, but I just don't have a simple answer on how to be able to dedicate resources and to consistently dedicate resources across that large of an area, especially within the park itself, to making sure that it was safe throughout the winter season. So just some food for thought.
Well, to your point, I understand, liability is always an issue, but don't you have liability with the sidewalks that you're clearing all along these other corridors?
We do. It's and people fall down. It's just where you want to draw the line with it is all, and how much more you want to accept. Again, we can run through them to the best of our ability, but what are we accepting at that point? I mean, it's almost like an internal joke, when Rails to Trails were first. Yeah, when the first corridor was built, it's like, well, that is for winter sports or snowshoeing or or whatever for those activities. But that's that's a little there's a little comedy and rolled into that perspective. But the reality is that we were never going to be able to get out there.
I
You've got-
don't know. I just feel as though there is I get your point, with regard to the snowbanks, let's say along Main Street and Churchill Road, those are state roads. So to cut through all of that mess, if you will, after 2 days in the ice, I could see how that's taxing and it's a huge effort on the part of your staff. But if you come through the park, you're not dealing with those snowbanks. I mean, it's not hit by, plows day in or hour after hour when they're trying to clear, a road like this. So it's not like you're cutting through that same type of material or ice that you would, along a main road. I would think that it's at least worth an attempt to try it once and see what happens after the next storm. And, you may find that people would be very appreciative of that. And it may be an easier task than we think it might be. Twin Brooks is very open. It's very sunny. It gets a lot of sunlight. So there's a melting factor, I think, that also helps in a situation like that, whereby if you're going along, let's say the Valley Trail, it's all treed and there's no sunlight in there. And, of course, it takes weeks for it to finally melt down. But I don't know. I feel like there are people that have advantages in the town if they have a sidewalk in the front of their house so they can walk, along their neighborhood. And there are others that don't have sidewalks and they like to go to a park and maybe they'd like to walk there. In addition to that, it's interesting to me that if the town is responsible for all the sidewalks, there seems to be some inconsistency with which streets they're taking care of, because the last storm, Shelton Road has sidewalks up and down it, and so does 108. And really the only sidewalk that was taken care of by the town was in front of the Historical Society, in that park over there. So if the owners are not going to be responsible for taking care of the sidewalks, and the town has decided that they're going to take the management of it because it wasn't enacted properly when they put this resolution forward, well then I would also ask that wherever there are sidewalks, that all the sidewalks should be taken care of in addition to those that are. But look, I'm throwing this out there. I love the parks. I like to be in the parks. There are a lot of people like me. There are people that have mentioned it to me, that we've had to run along a road, or walk along a road. They'd rather go to a park and be safe in there. And I just think it's worth a shot. It's worth a try to see how it works. And if it's going to be dangerous, or if it's not going to work, then we could say we at least tried it, but maybe we can attempt it. I don't know. Does anybody else, if I'm off base here, then, I'll yield, but
I got a question. Is there a way you can just kind of plow the loop around the lake pond there at Twin Brooks? That the path that just kind of goes around, and that would give people an area to kind of walk around in a circle. Is that a doable thing?
You're talking about the really between the Vietnam area and the playground and the beach.
Yeah, around the loop that's kind of around the beach there, That way they could walk around in a circle at least. That would give them something. And then if we let people know that that area is plowed often or during snowstorms, that could give them an area just to kind of go to. That way you wouldn't have to do like a tremendous area. It's just a designated area for walking.
Well, it's certainly wide enough that that area could be plowed. It's possible.
Yeah.
I mean, again, I will give it a shot. But I know that, with the current cycle, depending on what we have for snow in a given event, it won't likely be done for days. I would definitely not salt that area, because I'd pretty much kill everything on either side of it, which would be one of the few ways we would be able to try to ensure that we would get more rapid melting. I don't want to do more harm than good, but
You salt the sidewalks now, Dee, with that through the town?
well, no, we salt all of the parking lots,
Oh,
and then any of our parking lots, buildings of that nature. It's just that's a very long area. So if I were to do anything there, the only material we would have would probably be some of the it's salt in a lingdon. I can't speak tonight. Lingdon base that's just spread all over our roads. We'd burn up everything on either side of that area, all the way around there, which I don't think would be the right way to go there. But just trying to clear the path and seeing whether or not we got some degree of radiant heat in there to melt it off a little bit sooner. I'd give it a try, but it would certainly be a couple of 3 days after an event, because we're not getting through everything as you indicated as it is. It's
yeah.
not for lack of trying. It's just lack of ability to actually perform that task.
Mhm. Well, I would appreciate that. And I, again, if it could be attempted and if it's not a good idea, after it's done, well, then we'll keep it the way that it is. But I think it would be a positive move from the commission and also from your department for people to see that that's available to them.
I'll see what I can do.
Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, anyone else on this topic? Thanks, Ken. Okay, we're still under old business. And do we have anything on old business? Just, I guess I do, just as we got through the holidays and spring is approaching in a few months. Dee and Brian, maybe if we can get that field use committee back up and going so you can review the categories that we spoke of. I'll be glad to sit in on that meeting.
Yeah.
Okay, just so as, the schedules start coming out, they want to, get some of that info by at least, I would think, by at least March. So, next meeting will already be February. So we want to get moving on that.
I'll reach out.
Okay, and with it being on Zoom, it may even be easier, so. Okay, anyone else under old business? Okay, moving on to new business. Anything under new business?
Kevin, I just have a question for Dee. I recently noticed when I was walking in the valley, a bench along the river put in by the Rotary Club for, I think it was Lenny Germano. Is that something that is available for town citizens to put one in, or was that just because he was a employee? I know, beloved employee. But it was the first time I'd seen something like that in the park. I've been doing a lot of bike trails around the state, and it's kind of a commonplace that you have these memorial benches. And I didn't know if that was something that was available for just average citizens to purchase or.
Yeah, it is. There are a lot of memorials in Twin Brooks. The valley has a few scattered here and there, mostly because putting anything in the valley involves like drilling through rock.
Yeah.
Not exactly an easy task, but yeah, I mean, there is an application. There is a fee for trees, memorial trees, and memorial benches, and we've also accepted memorial donations for other types of park furniture within the system. We have some stuff up at the Indian Ledge playground, which there was a generous donation for as well. So there is a mechanism for that, most certainly, and there are various ways of memorializing those donations. Sometimes they're carved, as I think Lenny's was. Sometimes it's just a brass plaque. Yes, there is a mechanism.
Is that something you do through Parks?
Yeah.
And Rec? Okay. All right. Thanks.
Sure.
See, I have a question. I was reading in the minutes that you had requested an extension for the post up for the candidates for the program manager position. And have you received any applications yet?
Yes. That is a very complicated story, and it's ongoing as we speak. There currently has been a culling of a few applicants. No interviews have been scheduled as of yet. We're certainly hopeful to get to the bottom of what direction we are going in terms of getting that position and others filled ASAP. But to answer your question, yes, but we haven't moved to fill the position or have interviews scheduled yet.
And how long is the post going to be noted or up for applications? And what was the extension request? For how long?
I had originally asked for an extension of 2 weeks. I actually haven't been given confirmation or denial as to whether or not that's going to happen. My gut feeling is that it's going to be denied, and the applicants that have already registered and been culled from civil service and HR will be the selection I'm going to have to go through. And that's going to be a long and difficult conversation with HR.
It sounds like you really want more time. As though,
Yes.
you know, maybe the applicants that you're receiving are not.
Well, I can't say that. I will be. The short story with this is that the timing of when the recruitment went out was right around the holidays. I was not informed that it had actually hit the street. It was not promulgated to some of our agencies that I wanted it publicized towards. And then a list was formed, and I was told that was what I was working with. I'm not sure whether or not that's the end of it, but I will be open and honest. I'm not happy with the way that worked its way through. I think it was.
Let me ask you, who did you request the extension from?
Human Resources.
Not understanding why they wouldn't grant that.
Nor do I.
I mean, I think we all want the best candidate for this position.
Well, I don't know what best means, but I certainly want to, take whatever measures we can to try to entice the best candidates that are available out there. And I think there is enough question in my mind that between the timing and what agencies and areas the posting actually took place and for how long, it certainly limited the possibilities. For all I know, there's a diamond in that list that I already have, but it's not the way I wanted to do it.
Would there be a reason for the Parks Commission to intervene with Human Resources and ask for an extension on your behalf, or is this just been decided and we have no say in it?
I don't have an answer to that. I'm still waiting the answer to my question directly, which I haven't gotten yet.
Kevin, is that something that we want to notify the Human Resource Department about, that we feel as though the park superintendent made an extension and we were hoping that they would would grant that to him.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't have any experience with, us having any say or interfering with civil service. So I'm not sure.
And nor do I.
Well, why don't we leave it as Dimitri said, he really didn't even get the answer on whether they would extend it or not. If they won't extend it and he has a problem with not having the type of applicant that he needs, then maybe we can get involved.
Chairman Bellows, if I could add something to this conversation.
Sure.
This is Kathy McGannon. At the moment, we are in discussions with HR regarding this and are supposed to have a meeting with Dimitri very shortly to discuss the application process. I will say this, there are some very strict and tough civil service rules, and part of this deals with one of them. Once a list is promulgated, it is very difficult to undo the list. People are notified, and at this point, Dimitri and Tom McCarthy and I will be meeting to discuss this and see if there is some way to extend that posting. Under the current rules, I'm not sure it can happen, but we have not given up. And I'll leave it at that because it is an ongoing issue under discussion.
Okay, thank you for the information.
Okay.
Okay, anything else? I forget, was that new business or old business? I think that was old business, but do we have anything under new business? Nothing under new business. Okay. Next, superintendent's report. Dee, you sent it out. Do you need to add anything?
No, unless you guys
Anybody
have
have any
questions for
questions?
me.
Yeah, the only questions I had is the machines, the Bobcat power machine, that's a snow removal machine, correct?
Yes.
Obviously, that doesn't help what we're talking about tonight then.
No. No.
Would a machine of that size be able to plow a sidewalk in Twin Brooks or, the Quarry Road area?
Yeah, in point of fact, that it's the only ones that can kind of work their way through, frozen packed snow effectively after days. Yeah, so what we're doing, our mechanic has been sort of beating his head against this thing for a few days. As it stands right now, it's going to be on life support, but we're basically just going to keep literally pouring fluids in it until the thing blows up because we don't have another choice. So it's not dead, but it's severely damaged to the point where we can't depend on this piece of machinery to go out and do its job without some severe coaxing. So we'll certainly be looking hard as to whether or not we can fit that into our operational budget, or if we have any opportunities, maybe we'll have, I'll cross my fingers now, a light enough winter season where there may be some resources that will help us get another one. So we're not out of the woods, but we also have some options ahead of us. So we're working on it.
Okay. Any other questions for the superintendent? No? Need anything to add?
No, I'm good, folks.
Okay, division reports, we have a copy of the Ranger report. Any questions on that? No? Okay, so that's all we have for tonight. So for next month, we will get you a finalized copy of the public assembly. And we can vote on to approve that next week if it's suitable to everyone. Okay,
Great.
right, there's nothing else. Do I have a motion to adjourn? Brian, Mike, second. All in favor? Give me a wave. Good night.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Good night, everyone.
Bye.